Hello, everybody. All right. Get started. We'll get started on this wonderful Friday. Apologies for missing Thursday. Had just a bunch of stuff to get done. Apparently, making a video game can involve a lot of discussion. It's all good stuff. Had a lot of fun with it. It was a very productive, very good day. But I was not here. So, apologies for that. Yeah. If you're watching this VOD for the first time, or if you're watching the stream for the first time via this VOD, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube, thank you very much. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Feel free to jump ahead. It is a live stream, raw video. There is we don't edit it down to the good bits. Though, if you go over to Mandrake Farms on YouTube, you can see some edited down clips. They're a little bit more digestible, a little bit more coherent. So while I wait on people to potentially show up, who knows? This could be the day where no one shows up to hang out. Either way, we'll have fun, even if we means me. Let's log in and see if we can see these changes that Ali was just making. Hopefully your day, whatever day that may be, is going well. I was able to walk down to the garden with the dog earlier. It's about, I thought it was 1.5 kilometers, but Jasmine's Fitbit, I could have sworn she said it was like 2.5 kilometers the last time she looked. Either way, was able to walk the dog down, get everything watered, throw some slugs over the fence, and yeah, come back. Well, that's interesting. There are 2 event systems in the scene. Please ensure that there's always exactly 1 event system in the scene. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hop back out, and I'm going to see if this can be replicated. Okay, Valvin. Yeah. See, look at you. You showed up. Datham, what's up? Hopefully your mornings are going well. What's up with this scene? I swear I worked a minute ago. Arthen, what's up? Hello? Log in? No? No more for me? Remez? Hello? Is Ali still in Slack? Oh, that's what it is. Ali says at 1:55 in general channel, server is being rebuilt and rebooted. That's probably what happened there. Though oddly, I guess I was just in right before I started the stream. I was just in before the reboot. I guess that was during the rebuild. You should send the devs a message about the crash. Now, first I always want to make sure that it's an actual crash and not something like this. Also, when it comes to crashes and other bugs, sometimes I'm just lazy. While that's loading up in the background, let me reload up Heidi. Hello, Heidi. Let's get you started again. Get some Heidi windows over on my other monitor so I can play around in the database today. And we'll do that one more time. Yet. Heidi. Heidi. Not Heidi Klum. And open. Cool. We've got these open now. Arthur said, I haven't been able to attend the streams lately. I really enjoyed the update video you put out a few days ago. Great work. Thank you. Yeah, that was a fun one. It wound up becoming a bit more elaborate and stuff than I expected when I sat down to cobble it together the first day, but it was nice getting into Premiere and doing that. It's been a while since I did any video editing. And we've got such great source material to work with. And it's really cool to be able to jump in our game and then run around and film some stuff and then edit it. So, the next thing that I need to work on is like an overview video. Kind of a... want to do a 60-second one. Like just a very quick one. 60 seconds is the limit for the videos that you see on Twitch. Like the little background channel video or whatever. So I'll probably do a 60-second one for Eminem and then have that as my channel video. And because then we can reuse it in a number of places, like just generic Eminem 60-second Eminem video, and then I'll put together however long it winds up needing, I guess 5, 6, 10-minute video that is a Eminem overview. I was gonna put VO on the update video, so I probably spent 3 hours recording narration for that 8 or 9 minute video. That's how many times I did it over and over again. And I was listening to it and was just going to edit and splice best takes and stuff and narrate the video. And was so just turned off on hearing my own voice in the video that I went ahead and the morning that I think I posted the video, I went in and just made it all text-based in the video. Because I was like, you know what? The video is visual. If you're not watching the video well enough to read the text, then you're not watching the video well enough. You don't need me blabbing. But what we may do for narration of the Eminem video is find someone. I found a guy on YouTube a while back that like plays bass guitar. That's his main thing. And the reason why we're not doing anything on screen right now, if you're just tuning in, is Ali is rebuilt and is rebooting the server, and I'm gonna give it a minute before I try to get back in. But I found a guy that like plays bass and does voiceover work that looks and sounds like a wizard. And I would love to have, basically we just write up a script for the VO and have some guy with an amazing like welcome to Monsters of Memories kind of like voice. That would be amazing. Get some welcome to the world of Monsters of Memory. My name is Dungeon Master and I will be it'd be so good. Not really. His name would not really be Dungeon Master in the video. Any Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro algorithm that may be listening to all videos on the internet in order to provide cease and desist and or lawsuit. That was merely a joke on a Friday because of Red Bull. It gives you wings. Everybody that comes into a Discord and is like, hey, how can I help? How can I help? We're going to have to start checking on what people do for a living. If you work at Red Bull, you can help. You can sponsor it. Hey, Belfaster. Let's start this again. I was very tempted to pop on to TLP this morning and stream that for a little bit and see who all's around. But I owe you some M&M development, don't I? Let's see what happens. See if we can get in. See if we crash again. What time is it where you're at? Man, it is dark. 7:10 a.m. I'm assuming East Coast, right? Let me look at my world clock. Texas? Oh, New York is 8 and it's 7 where you're at. I'm going to be in Texas in just over a month. Just over a month from now, probably, roughly. Hopefully. I'll be in Florida and Texas. Well, Texas and then Florida. Is it warm there? Is my storage unit getting auctioned a la Storage Wars? Not yet. Yeah, man. Fortunately, not yet. They're making too much money off of me on the storage unit. It's up to something ridiculous now, like $170 a month. So one of the things I want to do... Oh, damn. I'm being attacked. Oh, no. Guard got him. Okay. One of the things I want to do while I'm there is maybe try to compress it down and put it in a smaller unit. Get rid of a few things. I'm going to dig through all of my EverQuest stuff while I'm there and see what old... what stuff I may have there of interest to the stream. And also going to see if I've got some, like, any old notes or notebooks or any of that shit while I'm in there as well. So, should be interesting. Alright, while it's dark, why does that? Oh, I hit the wrong button. Do that. Let me scribe some spells, I guess, or some abilities and spells. Lazy Cincy. We've been working on it since we really kind of kicked off the idea and started doodling in Blender and in Unity in like around September of 2020. So September will be 2 years. For the first year is like 4 of us, off and on, 5. So it's like four or 5 of us for the first year, and now in the second year we're sitting at 11 people on the team. Mr. Franzy, thank you for the follow. Mako said, yeah, it was 88 degrees last night at 9 p.m. Kind of humid. I lived in Austin, Texas for 9 years, and I gotta say, I really like the weather there. Belfaster said, don't know if your lodging is already sorted, but when we visited Austin, we stayed in a very neat hotel called the Cat Noir Hotel. Can recommend it for sure. It didn't have a ton of rooms, but had character within walking distance of most of downtown. appreciate the recommendation. My storage unit is right across the street from the domain, basically. I used to live in the domain in North Austin. And so we're going to get a hotel up around there somewhere so we can just walk over to the storage unit and knock that out. And then we'll make our way downtown probably by whatever means possible. Jasmine's German, so she's used to being able to either walk or just hop on really good public transportation to get anywhere. And so she was exploring how far things were from each other in Austin. And it was the first time I think it really clicked for her how America works in terms of being able to get places and stuff. If you guys like stand up and you're there on a Friday, go see a live episode of Kill Tony. Oh, yeah, good point. I almost forgot all those guys are there now. Hey, Kronos. Hey, T-Con. Lazy, ask all the questions you want. I don't know if I can answer all of them. If they're technical, I'm going to defer you to our LinkedIn. Let me get my mess together. All right, there's the link. Random aspiring comedians put their name in a hat and give 1 minute stage time, and it's either really good or horrible, and they get roasted. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen one on YouTube, but yeah, the comedy scene there with Rogan moving in is really awesome. I shot photos of a comedy show back when I was shooting photos when I lived there. Funny as random. I shot photos of political stuff, MMA. All the local like pro fights and amateur fights for TexasMMA.com back in the day, and I wound up shooting some comedy just because they needed a shooter to do some like promo stuff for them. Will this be Jasmine's first trip to the U.S.? No, she's been once before we met. And she was on the East Coast, like Northeast, and then Florida. Like her and her ex-boyfriend had, I guess, it was like Boston, New England area, and then I think they flew down to Florida, and then it was like Southern Florida a bit, I think. And then she and I went to Florida to visit my family and also spend a few days at the water park a couple years ago. And then, yeah, this will be like her third trip, I guess. First time to Texas, though, for sure. So definitely get barbecue Belfast. She's into barbecue. There's some great barbecue joints in Stockholm. So when we lived in Stockholm, there's actually a place called Austin Food Works where a guy, Swedish chef, had lived in Austin for a while to learn how to do Austin-y kind of hipster food. And yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty Austin-y as well. Though it was kind of funny, I asked for a pickleback while I was there. I was like, oh, I'm going to get a pickleback. And I had to describe to the kid that was working the bar that night, like, what it was. And he misunderstood me, and so instead of giving me a shot of pickle juice and a shot of whiskey, he just gave me this big shot of pickle juice and whiskey mixed together. I was like, fair enough. Good try, kid. I won't hold it against you. So... it looks like... Lazy, it looks like your question was answered by Belfaster. First question would be, what networking system are you currently using? Belfaster said custom networking built on top of LightNetLib. Any more specific details than that on there? Either somebody in chat can answer because they've heard the question and answer before and retained it better than I did. Or hit us up on Discord, link above, and ping Ali. And he'll be the primary one to answer you on that front, but got the feeling Gary and John could probably answer questions as well. We need to update our tech FAQ, like tech info on the FAQ. Here's our website. What version of Unity are we using? We are using 2020.3.28. Sunrise time. I wonder if I can get up there before... I'm trying to think of... they're both pretty far, and I don't want to cheat. Yeah, well, I was about to say, maybe I could get up there and see the sunrise from the tower, but... The magazine that ranks the best barbecue in Texas comes out with a new list every 4 years. The new #1 is actually in Fort Worth now. A place called Goldie, started by some Franklin guys. Haven't tried it, but Franklin barbecue is like #8 now. Got too popular, man. Too much people waiting in line all day, and too much of the guy putting on like master classes on the internet. You can learn how to make our barbecue. It happens. G Normal, thank you for the follow. Hope you're having a great Friday morning. Is there anywhere you're looking forward to going in Austin, or eating somewhere specific? I imagine it's changed a bit in 9 years. So I've been away from Austin for like at least 7 or 8. Shit, man, I've been paying for that storage room so long. But let's be real, if I wasn't paying for the storage room there, I'd probably be paying for it somewhere. So, because when I moved to Germany okay, well, it's not been that long. 7? Yeah, so 2015 I moved to Germany with basically 2 suitcases and 2 dogs and a wife. And then by the end of year 1, I had 1 dog and 1 suitcase worth of shit and no wife. But now I have a new wife and a new dog. So a lot's going on, and I have a lot more shit, unfortunately. I see you're eating bread rolls in game, but will you have sweet rolls? We could add some sweet rolls today. Because we don't have them yet. We're gonna do a little design pass soon. Probably within the next week. I want to we'll do a little sketch, and we'll update. We'll update this newbie yard area out here. We're gonna redesign it. Those of you that are new here, haven't seen any of this before, essentially this newbie yard in this city are the more, here, let me do this. Maximize, and we'll just come up a little bit. So you look here, we're blocking out the city as it will be in game, as opposed to the placeholder city that we put together and iterated on over the last, like, the first year or so. So we can zone over and you can see how they differ. GM on, zone, shaded, dunes. The Italian place called Red Ash is on your list for next Austin trip. Oh yeah, that's right. You asked that, and I did my usual thing where I sort of floated away into a different topic. I want to go to Yellow Jacket Social Club. Because I always like getting drinks there. Let's see if we actually make it. Did we make it? That zone did not work. Let's try logging back in and see if we wind up in there. So Yellow Jacket I want to check out. I want to see like if the Grackle's still there to get a beer. Food wise, it seems like it seems like Austin changes so frequently that there's no telling what's there, and I'm not too hung up on any specific places. So yeah, I'll just kind of treat it as a new experience. All right, cool. All right, so we did zone. We were able to zone. So this is what the blockout looked like for the first year of iteration. And it was just a very simple blockout that we made in Blender. Just to sort of play around and get some stuff in. Voodoo Donuts is very popular for donuts. Is Voodoo Donuts like a franchise though? Because I swear we had Voodoo Donuts at like Universal or whatever when we were in Orlando, when we went. And so there's a zone out here, ignore the UI elements, but there's a zone out here that was kind of like our newbie yard transitioning to, it's kind of our newbie yard through whatever levels, 12 or something, and then you zone into another zone over there, and then we had a dungeon entrance here and another zone over here. It might look kind of familiar, and then we added this zone in here that we were using to playtest dungeons. Oh, actually right here. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to chop off the city part here because we've got a new city. And we're going to make this its own zone, Shaded Dunes. And it will be on the other side of sort of the newbie yard zone line in the city that we were in before. Hey, Pattis. So that work will be coming up in the not too horribly distant future. But yeah. So when we're here, then when I look out this way in the other city, then it'll eventually look a bit more like this. Which side of the zone will the wall be on? On this side. The wall will be in Night Harbor. Zone Night Harbor. So let's go back. See if I can actually zone back without getting locked up. Teflon Don said, this is looking great, by the way. Loved the recent video update. We watched it on Pant's stream. Everybody really loved it. Cool. That's awesome. You know that so Panth plays a role in all of this that he may not remember, because I can't remember when the last time I spoke about it was. While I was living in Stockholm. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to log out and log back in and see if I land in that zone again. So while I was living in Stockholm, I was curious if anybody played EverQuest still. And, I was just kind of getting into Twitch. I hadn't watched very much stuff. And so there was like a weekend where I logged in to see if anybody was playing EverQuest. And Panth was playing, and he was in Chardock. And so I was pretty amped because I worked on the revamp of Chardock with my boss at the time, Rich Waters. And so it's kind of cool to be able to hop in and then start talking to him, and then he's talking back, and I'm like, oh shit, this guy's talking to me. Like he's playing a video game and he's talking to me. This is fantastic, kind of thing. And I know it's super silly. But anyways, and so like he was kind of my first real interaction on Twitch with a streamer, and we were talking about EQ, and it was really cool. He's a super fun guy, and we had him up on the TV, and I was responding on my phone, but then he was talking on TV, so Jasmine could see it as well. And he was listening to like whatever metal, and Jasmine and I both, she's very into metal, whereas I like a ton of stuff but metal as well. So it wound up being a very fun experience. And so then it got me thinking, I should check back in every once in a while. And so then later, when I was leaving my last company and basically had the rest of the year to do whatever with, and the whole COVID thing was kicking off, Jasmine and I had been streaming some other stuff on like D Live or something, because it was all like news related and shit. Didn't want to do it on Twitch. Anyways, came on to, I hit Twitch in the mornings and just started seeing if anybody's playing EQ because I've been playing Escape from Tarkov and it made me think of EQ. And so then I started talking to another streamer who I don't think streams anymore. And that's when he was like, hey, you should check out the TLP. And that's kind of what kicked all of this off. So that's my Panth story. That was the first sort of interaction with him and interaction with like EQ on Twitch. And then I would say that had some influence in where we've landed now. So when you see him again, feel free to tell him thank you for me. And if I'm ever paying attention, like when I'm not doing this, I'm not working or not doing house stuff or not at the garden, then sometimes I try to catch a stream, especially in the mornings, because usually Level Up Larry will be on and he's fantastic. And I don't really know Panth's schedule, but I do run into it every once in a while. The thing is, like if I pop into like Panth or somebody like that stream, usually I won't say anything because I don't want to be like a distraction or anything if anybody that is in both streams is there and like, oh, hey, you know, that kind of thing. I don't care if people do it on my stream, but I don't necessarily want to interrupt other people's stream. You guys can do whatever in here as long as you're not assholes. Yeah, Kuros, he is a very nice guy. All right, so we're back in here. So that was a lot more difficult than normal. If you're new here, apologies. I don't know what's going on with streaming, but I should ping Ollie and be like, hey, I lock up when I zone. Is your name Irija? SWG? So essentially a mix of Star Wars Galaxies and reggae. Either way, you said, I feel like I'm in my 20s again watching this, like old school EQ, love it. Awesome, that's good to hear. Yeah, man. Nice. I like it. Reggae's very nice when the weather is good. So you can see it's dark. It's very dark. One, because Pattis is too lazy to put torches everywhere. Shame on him. Just kidding, Pattis. And also I don't have a torch in my hand. Where do you sign up? You can sign up to our Discord. You can sign up to our mailing list. And as a human, I've got to basically, this is the darkest time of night. Like you just saw the sun go down, the moons are coming up. It'll brighten up a little bit for me with my human vision when the moons are like actually overhead. But imagine if we were in a forest with a dense canopy, it would be very, very dark. So I'm gonna avoid these guys for now. If you guys haven't seen, Zukin's been working on beetle animations, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, until I get a torch, it's gonna be a little dark. I hit him. How many times did I hit him? I hit him twice. And I got a bow from him. I hit him twice, and he didn't chunk me down that hard. So let's take a look. What's the cons? Yellow, blue? No, white. Cool. Good. Oh wait. Do I have arrows even? Oh, I started with arrows. I got 200 arrows to start with. That's very generous. Alright, I gotta get it. Oh, man. They're social. If I own both of these guys without losing like half health, we're gonna have to talk. We're gonna have to tweak it. Alright, I'm at half health. I can't say those two words together. Half health. Oh, wait a second. I've been ambushed. Jeez. Alright, well, I've been talking shit, but I'm actually gonna run. Paisy said, it's really cool to see darkness in the game. I really like how different night can feel in games just by making it harder to see, and it can be real pretty. Yeah, I think I've mentioned a billion times, like I'm so happy to be going the route that we're going with the art style, because it's, again, the very old school, kind of like not overly stylized, but trying to replicate some of the chunkiness of the old school art, but then with modern lighting, it just makes it feel really dynamic and interesting, right? So the video showed some of that off. I think I mentioned it. As Bikes and Bows said, the latest update video looks great. Are there any classes, are any of the classes going to bear any resemblance to EQ2 Dirge? I miss the miserable debuffer. I can't say offhand that I know of anything that replicates that, but it's an interesting question. Bikes and Bows, hop on our Discord and tell us what you like about them. And there may be a way for us to fold some of that stuff in, or one of our goals is to, and you know, who knows how you guys feel about this, but one of our goals is we want to be very alt-centric. We want to encourage people to have alts. We want to, over time, add more races, add more classes. We're less worried about perfect balance, and we're less worried about constant super deep vertical progression in the game. Like, rather than add another 20, 50, 200 levels to the game over time, it'd be nice to add some more classes and races, have some more horizontal progression for your existing characters, but really just give you new ways to see and play the game. So who knows, we may be unable to scratch your Dirge itch immediately, but it could be something that appears over time. Belfaster said, could you ever have a separate variety show again? Not on Twitch, or is that just not compatible so long as this game is being developed? Both of what you used to do, the news things and EFT, sound interesting to watch. So we never, you know, we try to avoid politics and stuff like that on this stream. My concern with going back to news is that it inevitably goes into things like politics and social issues and stuff. That's one of the things we noticed when we were doing the original stream. And as much as I'm a news junkie, and I love research, I've got to admit, one of the first things I do over coffee is probably spend a solid hour just going through all the various, you know, news sources that I use. I like to stay on top of current events, and I like to be ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff. And so I really don't, you know, for the foreseeable future, I'm probably not going to do something like that publicly, because we're sort of very your personal views agnostic for our team, and we want everybody to feel cool with each other. We want everybody to feel like they can all get along and be accepted. I want the same thing for the audience. I don't give a shit what your background is, left, right, blue team, red team, whatever. We're here to enjoy fantasy and video games. And so, yeah, I'd probably avoid that sort of thing just because then it's like you're always going to piss somebody off. I don't mind mixing chocolate and peanut butter, but I don't necessarily want to put any bullshit in there. Thank you, Belfaster. I'm going to read that out loud because it's a compliment. Belfaster said, "You seem like a fairly open-minded, insightful person." So I'm getting the vibe that it would be good from a selfish standpoint. I try to be very open-minded, but that can get you in trouble these days. So totally fine to have a company just focus on product, not worry about real life stuff. I wish more of what it is. I pulled too far. Yep, but my thing is to each their own. Every company can be different. Every company can have their priorities. Oh, I forgot these guys are social. Damn it. And I might have been the one that made them that way originally. I don't know. Show you how much I know about the game. Either that or Nick did it. Either way, I should have known better. I'm just trying to go after skeletons, because... Oh, I wonder if the archery animation has been retargeted in yet from the ogre. Because we can update that ability to use the archery animation instead. Not to get political, but the Knolls of Blackborough did nothing wrong. I tend to agree. I mean, it was us that ruined our lands. Teflon Don said, "I decided to try EQ2 for the first time this year instead of one of the new TLPs. Never played it before. Thought it was a good time with the new TLE. Very different game." It is a very different game. By no means a bad game, especially these days. It runs a lot better on most folks' machines. All right. Position updates. Entity not found. Cool. We'll see if we run into that again. Zoning. Ollie asked me zone to where when I crashed between Night Harbor and Shaded Dunes, and then back or locked up both times and logged back in to the target zone. Bill Pastor said, "To be honest, I have a feeling you and I probably feel different about different things, but my opinion is listening to things you already agree with is basically worthless. You don't learn or grow." Yeah, and finding someone who you may think differently or see things from different angles and think of covering your blind spots, that's where you can grow. That's why interacting with people in real life is so awesome. Or at least one-on-one in like a online context where you can be a little more open and kind of safe. It's rare that I run into people in real life when I talk to them that we can't find some things that we agree on and compromise on others or get along. So, good morning, Rabier. Let's enter world again and see what happens. I hear it. Did I click too soon? I may need to just restart Unity. Let me try that as well. We did some updates and I grabbed them right before the stream started. But sometimes it's good just to restart. Turn it off and back on again. I was using this map and may be using it some more if we get in and play around with adding some more NPCs. Excuse me. I'm always a bit hesitant to hop straight into the database because it's not a very visual sort of experience for those of you that are looking more than listening, though I know a lot of you are just listening. Ooh, I was wondering about that. I've hit play, but next time we are, actually, let me just look here. Let me see if that's in game in any form. Bug report UI. Oh, hey. Sun's up at least. Maximize. Okay. Ooh, this is that's an interesting. I wonder, since we're working on a bug reporting UI at the moment and bug reporting system, I wonder if we can automate some of the crash logging and have that dump into a database in a similar manner. Or I wonder if that's already being done. Ollie, if you're listening. So what I've been doing the last couple of days, you know, as I'm sort of plugging away at work, I'm not plugging away. The other night at like from 11:30 to midnight, I couldn't sleep, and I had a stomach ache. So I came back down and started poking at stuff, and that was probably the most productive I've been in the database in the last few days. So I'm not going to BS you. But what I've been doing is we had all of the various merchants set up in a row. Nick had added them so that we have our various skills and spells and stuff available for us to purchase. What I've been doing the last few days is coming in and basically just kind of getting down to business a little bit with looking at our original layout of where we want things to be within a city, and started moving those merchants around. And then I've gone through a nice write-up that Hamad did for the initial sort of class factions. So essentially your trainers and your initial faction that you'd be interacting with, depending on your class initially. So which would differ from like the political and other narrative driven factions that you'll then encounter and work your way into and essentially, you know, experience in parallel to that as you progress through the game. So the distribution of, he wrote up really nice characterization and more details on each of the areas that they're in and each of the sort of supporting NPCs that are there, and you know, it'll be random things, love interest, and this person's related to this other person that's actually part of a more narrative faction. But you know, and so we start to get into that, and right now I'm doing the most basic thing of just sort of like stubbing in the NPCs or creating the NPCs in a very basic manner and getting them in, right? And so most of these that you see in here will be kind of the guild master for your class. For example, this guy for fighters, and we've got the archer GM here up on the wall up there. We've got another fighter guild master, and we got rangers up there brooding up on the roof. Anyway, so I'm just kind of getting that in so that more and more as we look around, and what I'm doing now is creating all of the kind of like filler NPCs to allow us to sort of move pieces around and talk about this space in more detail. And so it'll be merchants, and I've tossed in a couple bankers and just sort of base functionality. And it allows us to get a feel as to whether or not what's been blocked out, which we're in the process of revising as Harrison/Pattis here in chat is blocking out and building out the city. As Hamad is working in more lore, they can kind of back and forth a little bit and structure things. So, so what I'm doing in the database, and I'll show you the database real quick. In one of the DB windows. So very, very straightforward sort of relational DB. Very raw, but in that sense, MMOs are about making lots of things, not making very few super detailed things. And so, you know, we've structured our data in a way that's relatively easy to work with. I think there are certain things that we could probably build out some tooling to make things a little bit easier. But like when I talk about blocking out NPCs, we can go here, data, NH prefix for Night Harbor, and you can start to see, you know, basically I create an NPC, I attach it to an NPC spawn group, so an encounter table that can roll. For a lot of these named NPCs, it's going to be 100%, which is attached to a zone spawn, which if we go in here, Night Harbor, the zone spawn basically gives its coordinates, where does this thing spawn, and what does it do when it is spawned, and all of that stuff. So, which you can see kind of in action. I'll give you an overview here. So if we look here, you can't see much, but then if I come into, we created our own tool for this, the zone panel, enable the spawners. You can see in a second the volumes that Nick has put in here for spawning, sort of just random spawning within these volumes and random sort of wander behavior for the first little passive newbie art NPCs, right? So pretty straightforward. And then what you see here, each one of these numbers then is associated with essentially that data flow that I just described. What flavor of SQL actually powers your DB? Embarrassingly, I couldn't even tell you. Hold on one second, I'll tell you in a second, because we were just talking about it. Because we were talking about something related to tooling. So where was that? MySQL? MySQL? Add grass. C. Gomez Molina. Well, we've just added our first trees. So we'll get there. We have little tufts of grass in the other version of this zone that need to be brought over. So if you're craving green, here's your first taste of green, but it is a desert and a beachy one at that. So there won't be a ton of grass until maybe you get into the hills. All right, 1 second. I've got a delivery. I'll be right back. Case of Red Bull? No, I wish. Something for Jasmine. I have no idea what it is. But if you're not quick... So I've got to go down a flight of stairs to get to the door. And if you're not quick here, they're gone. Like, they ring and go, and for the most part, they don't leave packages. So then you've got to go jump through hoops and pick them up later. Let me scroll up. I missed some stuff. Teflon Don said, every time I see the topic of old school MMOs being discussed these days, literally everyone is talking about M&M and really looking to this as their upcoming MMO. I think it's great. You guys deserve praise on this. Oh, that's very cool. How does the pressure to save everyone feel, by the way? Hopefully no problems. Well, I think I just commented, like, you know, in the comments on a video, just being silly because somebody had mentioned something. Because there's a lot of that type of sentiment, or people comment about Pantheon or something like that. And full disclosure, I'm a fan. I wish them well, and you know, I've spent a fair amount of time talking to Joppa, and I really like the guy. I think so. My joke was basically, at some point when the honeymoon is over, people will realize that we're making a game as well, and it doesn't always go as fast or as easily or as perfectly as you want. Not everybody gets to have everything that they want in the game, all of that type of stuff. And so the honeymoon will at some point be over. You will realize that we are human. We too fart, have stinky breath in the morning, sometimes say things that confuse you or make you angry. And that's life. But we'll see. We'll see what happens once people realize that we too are mortal. But I'm hoping that everybody continues to be as rad as you have been so far. We continue to make progress in a way that everybody finds inspiring, acceptable, however you want to put it. And shit comes together, and we're all enjoying playing the game and hanging out, and happy that we took part in all of this in the years to come. BTC Retro said, do you want to have themes to your guild areas? So you, so say you could look around and know that you're in the Paladins Guild, etc. So there will be themes, and there will be signage, and there will be story. But in some cases it may be different than what you're expecting. Right, so if you're expecting just kind of like the classic, here is the Paladins Guild sort of, you know, well, I don't know that it's a fair characterization that I'm doing right now. I think that the correct answer from me would be the simplest one, which is yes. What form that takes will differ from city to city. And like in the case over here, if we look over in this corner, because we have so much going on in this city in particular, there's the themes are a bit different than like if you were in the High Elf city, for example, where it may be it feels a bit more specific, and it feels like the politics of the city are tied in more directly with the classes. And so like in this case, this area here is a garrison for the city, and the trainers that are down here are actually, rather than it be like the Night Harbor official garrison that's training you, like, or you know, the city guard that's training you, there just happens to be this character down here. So Fadamius Steele, and we need to get a pronunciation guide from Hamad. I'm gonna just call him Fadamius. And so he's got his own private company that trains warriors, or sorry, in our case, fighters, archers, and rangers. And then from there, they get hired on either to the city or through one of the other factions that's here that you'll hear more about later, etc. So, and then over in this corner, there's the Wayfarer's Hospice in a traveler's district, which will be done up and set dressed and stuff like that. But that's where you'll run into the first clerics and paladins, etc. BDC says, I'm thinking about set dressing like in the Rogue Guild. Is there going to be stuff like lockpicks, traps on the wall, poisons on a shelf? Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a rough blocking that we're just starting. So there will be many more passes, which then start to get into details and all that. Isn't that right, Pattis? Is the company hiring? Kappa Votes asked. Are you an animator? If you're an animator, go to our website. Click on the team page, scroll to the bottom, and there's a link to a job description there, or you can just get to it through Discord as well. If you're not an animator, we are currently not hiring at the moment. Currently and at the moment put together. Perfect. So yeah, what was I saying before the mailman came? The delivery lady in this case. We come to zone panel. What kind of weaponry are we including? It would be I think it's a long list. So more specifically, what kind of weaponry are you looking for? So yeah, you can see here, I've basically just started placing these around so that we can look at the space. We can go through the most recent lore. We can see if this needs to be expanded a little bit, or if we want to change some of the rooms maybe to be slightly different in order to account for the changes in lore. Some areas they haven't been blocked out yet, so I just kind of plop folks in. Same over here. And now I'm doing more of a pass to start to hit. She's in the wrong place, actually, now that I've reread the lore. So she should be moved, and I'm also curious where her helper is. Wonder what I did wrong there. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm also going to stub in the first for all of the merchants and stuff. I'll give them placeholder merchant lists to start getting that differentiated. I'll throw a couple placeholder items of each type on the merchant list, so we'll have that. Start flagging the type of merchants and the type of items to support the thing that we're wanting to do with having merchants of a certain type not necessarily want to take items that are not what they're looking for, and they'll send you to other merchants then. So essentially, if you're trying to sell the like the leatherworking merchant a giant ruby, they'll tell you they're not interested and you should go speak with the jeweler or an appraiser. And then you can ask them, well, where's the jeweler? And then they tell you, the jeweler is north of here by the stable, type of thing. And so you can say, all right, thanks, person, and then walk over to try to find them. And you can speak to guards and ask them similar things, and they'll tell you where things are if they know relative to their position. So be getting all those pieces in over the next handful of days. The mother-in-law, or a mother-in-law, is in town this weekend, so we'll see what I get done. Free Snake said you probably won't include marine weapons since you're going for that medieval flavor. I'm going to have to Google. Space Marine, but with an accent. All right, yes, probably not. The closest thing to a bolt thrower is maybe a hand crossbow if we can convince Pattis to stop hating on them. While I'm in here, let me go check something. Not sure that'll happen. All right. Honestly, I'm okay without either crossbows. I don't necessarily feel a strong affinity to them in game, unlike real life. BDC Retro says, I know you guys won't have icon labels on your NPCs, but have you had any talks about how you plan to do NPC names like Merchant Smith or Banker Julie, or will they just have normal names? So I currently I've put either like Banker so that it's easy for us to spot, or I'm doing like really placeholder names like a weaponsmithing trainer for now. Hamad will update names, and so if we run over here, you'll see that everybody has a name, even if they've got a job like alchemist or whatever. Hamad and I just had a really interesting talk on this yesterday, and we're going to make the decision soon on the direction on this. But I'd been thinking about if you look at our guards that are in right now, you'll see like there'll be like a Guard Luna or Guard Ticon or whatever, you know, in here. And one of the things that I had thought previously, and I talked to Hamad about this yesterday, was what if every guard is just a guard until you interact with a guard? If you interact with the guard and you ask that guard his name, or some other guard points you to that guard and says, go speak with guard BDC Retro, then you'll basically that NPC will be flagged for you in a way where you'll now know that that person's name is BDC Retro. And so they go from being a generic NPC of a certain type, like a merchant, to, you know, potentially Sarathana Valran. And so then if someone says, go speak with Sarathana Valran, she is over, you know, she's to the west of here at the Wayfarer's Hospice, then it'll flag that already, right? And so when you come over here, in theory, what that means is you now know a bit about her. You can pretend like off screen you derived more information than maybe we even gave you in text. And so to make it easier for you to then spot her when you come up, and in a way it's kind of like a soft way of flagging then that NPC. And so this was the idea I had last year, I think, or earlier in the year, to sort of make things more interesting. Now there may be plenty of guards that are always going to be a guard to you, or, you know, potentially like a backpack merchant or whatever. But then for the ones where you've actually talked to them or learned about them, then you'll know them. There will not be any giant question marks or exclamation marks or other marks over NPCs' heads. And if at all possible, even the name, you know, on NPCs, like mobs that you're fighting and stuff, I want to keep this as simple as possible. My personal preference is not having a lot of information. You know, I don't need to see that she's in combat. I don't need to see what buffs are on her or debuffs are on her and all that stuff in here. If we want to put some more info on the unit frame or something like that, I think, you know, within reason, a lot more open to that. But to me, this space right here is sacred. And however you set up your UI to sort of keep shit out of the way, whether it's down here or up here or whatever you want to do, that's fine. And later on when we can customize this and pull it down, get it out of the way. But to me, this should feel like the place that you're at. And then you've just got to look at chat and other things to derive information about what's going on there that's not already available to you. So, I mean, if she's stunned, she'll have little twirlies and be playing a stunned animation. You know, we've got residual effects that we can stick on stuff for the duration of a buff and or debuff or whatever we want to, you know, there's stuff that we can do. But anyways, long story short, I think you get it. Kamikaze Rat 2032, thank you for the follow. Ish. I guess in theory we could give you the option to turn off all names. I mean, that's a simple UI thing, and then you could be as RP as you want in that regard and just, you know, walk up and start hailing people. Bikes and Bows says, please, please, please don't have any archers using 3-finger arrow on the left. They should only be shooting thumb draw arrow on the right. I shoot traditional and historical short bows, and arrow on the left with 3-finger draw is relatively modern style called Mediterranean draw. I don't know, given our big club fists in the way that we're animating, that we'll be able to convey most of that. I think what'll wind up happening is it'll be so nondescript, it'll just look like a draw, and in your mind, which is what we're trying to do here, we're leaving things pretty simple so that the power of your imagination and knowledge base can fill in the blanks, and you can have the ideal experience. But like, these hands they're not getting any more complex, guys. We'll be, you know, but on the right of the bow, not the left, I don't know that you're going to be able to distinguish it, at least based on the shooting animation that I created. You may have trouble. Have you read all about the Comanche and watched the videos and stuff? There's a really good book. What is it? Summer of the Autumn Moon. I think that might be it. It's a mind blower about the Comanche, and then I've watched the videos where they've replicated the Comanche like shooting style. Pretty interesting. Are you sticking with mitten hands? Kind of like classic WoW era? Yeah, I think... Did classic have mittens? I thought they had fingers as well. Like the Tauren and at least some of them. So, what was I doing over here? I was wanting to go check the bank. Okay, they work. Good. Though, and maybe it's just because... Let me see, is it... Maybe it's because of the pathing data? They're not spawning where they're supposed to spawn. Let me see... Actually, you know what? I think it's fine. Figure it out later. We can come in here and look in a sec. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Irie. Yeah, I'm a little torn on that. I definitely see the benefit. I'm just not sure if we want it. All right, so while I'm doing this, music's gonna be off. So let me put some music in the background. Here. And go to A Loving Robot. Nope, I mean Monsters Memories. Good on the 5th. We'll turn that off. Our playlist. Music videos. And we'll repeat it. Perfect. Oh yeah, you know what? Maybe after you interact with them, having that type of information under their name might not be bad. What's a realistic release date or alpha? I think both of those concepts are going to be a little different for us. Our focus right now is getting proof of concept to where we want it. We're gonna try to get proof of concept to an acceptable state this year. We'll see. As part of that, we're gonna allow some folks to come in and play, so that we can test out some things, and then we're gonna see what things are looking like as the year progresses with regards to proof of concept. Get a feel for how much content that actually winds up being, and then make a decision as to how we want to move forward. So I'm going to give you a non-answer on that, but it's so early that to try to give you an answer as to like anything resembling a release date or early access date or anything like that it's premature. You're welcome. So yeah, let me bring the zone panel back up and let's look at what's going on with a couple of these NPCs. All right, so she's where she should be. Let me find her assistant and figure out what's going on there. NPC on group. NH. And all right. Mira. Cool. And then in the other DB window, what we'll do is we'll come over here. Zone spawn, Night Harbor. Let me just do a quick scan and see if there's any zone spawn that's got her. Nope. So, Night Harbor. I had to guess she should have been 46. Cool. Then we'll fix that. Cool. So what I'll do here, I'll show you how we can do this really quick. So Night Harbor, ID 46, spawn group, daytime. Create a click. I'll click her right there. Now I'll click on her. Cool. Now we can move her around to wherever she needs to be. Change her facing. Update her coordinates from and facing from a position. Save it. Great. Refresh the data. Be sure. Cool, there she is. All right. I don't know what happened to her before, but I probably placed her and then didn't save her or whatever. All right, so when it's funny, when I'm working on this stuff, I've done more, I think, blocking out type environment art in the past than I have data work. So I've got to figure out a good flow for streaming and showing that type of work without finding myself being too quiet, which is boring, or otherwise just not giving you guys stuff to look at. I do feel like a few of you probably look at the screen instead of just listening. So with that in mind, we'll have to chat about something while I do this. And it'll test me. It'll let me see whether or not I'm able to work in data and chat at the same time. Kind of like walk and chew gum. All right, so we've got a number of... Oh, actually, what I'll do is I'll move these over here. Bring this window over here. And this will go a lot slower just because I'm streaming. One thing to put on some music and just sort of blast through some stuff. It's another thing to pay attention to you guys and do this as well. So we'll see how it goes. Ooh, one thing I wanted to check, actually, before we get too deep into this. Who gets to decorate all these houses and villages? This guy right here in chat is doing the bulk of that at the moment. So Pattis, who is in chat, has been doing all of the environment art and I've been helping just with some rough blocking. So like if we go to one of the other zones, which let's say we go to Night Harbor Fields, we'll disable. Once models are made, are you able to then place items? I can, and well, anybody on the team could. So Pattis does the bulk of that, but I'm helping. I'm helping. No, we're all working on stuff together. So one of the things that I've got to do is redesign this area here. So Hamad had some good suggestions on how to lay out the farm area and basically create some individual farm plots. Here, let me find that. I'll show you the image. Let's go down to Hamad. Perfect, right there. Let's open this for you in a new window. So essentially looking at some of the layouts of the farm clusters and scale and things of that nature, he did a quick sketch for me, and then I can come in and look on how to redesign that. We've got a reservoir that I've got to add over here. And need to catch up with him on how we want to handle the newbie yard, because my thought for the newbie yard on the north side of town here is that it'd feel a bit more residential and could actually be part of our player housing later. And then you're killing bugs and bats and other stuff in this residential area. As kind of a continuation of the theme, there'll be some areas within the city that you can hit as both a newbie and then as you get higher level as well. So playable space in there. And then we've got this quarry over here, and we've got a tavern that's kind of out of the way here that we'll need to block out, and some interesting characters in the quarry. And then, yeah, stuff like that. So Irie asks, similar placement in most mainstream games for you guys once the items are designed. Yeah, once something's made and it's available to us, like these trees, it's pretty easy for us to hop into Unity and then go in and start placing items around. We'll save it into the scene, like you see here, and then yeah, it's there. It's good to go. If it's something that needs to be spawned, then we'll just add it in the database and spawn it. Yeah, the new trees are great. If you've seen the video where we're playing around with shadows and stuff, last month's update video, you can see the lighting being highlighted. So and then while we're waiting on specific assets to be made, which Pattis is doing, I'd say most, if not all of, the environment assets. What I've done is I've just come in and blocked out stuff as placeholders that act as kind of like a symbol of, all right, we need some stuff over here. Or, hey, there's a point of interest up here that's, it's a tower, blah, blah, blah. And so I just made that made these things pretty quickly in Unity, and then they'll just get replaced wholesale. Like, these things are trees because the original description was a crystalline forest. So I just made like these, I didn't try to make like crystal trees. So I was like, all right, I'll just make what looks like a tree as a placeholder. And then we have the concept art that you probably saw in the video as well. It's chunks of spiky crystals. They're not actual trees. So we'll get those swapped out. And then some of the other stuff was in Unity. It's been fairly easy. Not only can you place things like that in Unity, Unreal, interchangeable, most modern engines, it's going to be basically the same level of ease. But it was easy for me to just go into Night Harbor, grab some tents and fire pits, or ruin pieces, and then just paste them into this scene. So, you can paste between scenes pretty easily. This whole section of like caves that we'll be putting these folks in over here. This whole section, I basically just went into Night Harbor or Shaded Dunes, the original Night Harbor, where Pattis had made these, and then I just copied it, pasted it into here, and then tweaked a few things and called it a day. So I've been doing that for each one of the zones that we're blocking out. Is the more stuff that we have, the faster things go. If you look, these current zones are basically just a terrain that I made using Pro Builder. And then later, Pattis has come in, exported the terrain into, I believe he uses Maya, cleaned it up, and then re-imported it as a single mesh. So has fewer issues, probably runs a bit better or whatever. But if you look, each one of these blockout zones are essentially a terrain, and then a lot of instantiations of this one same rock, like little hill rock object, along with this this sort of rocky border object that I think this is one of the ones I made in Blender like a year ago. And so everything is pretty low investment. Low investment, like block out for now. And then we'll use the work that's going on in Night Harbor to help us understand our process a little bit more. I think if I had to guess, Harrison, you and Ham probably talked a little bit about process yesterday. Because I know I talked to him about it, because it was like, we'll be using Night Harbor to get a feel for, yeah, like we'll get a feel for, all right, if we started with this map and then we come in and we start blocking things out, what's the right flow for iterating on both the map, but also making sure that ideas that aren't, you know, this is a square with a bunch of names in it. It's not a full drawn every building kind of map. So that gives a bit of the burden to Pattis to start to visualize what this means and rough it in. And what I've found is we either take the time to map out every single piece, which takes a fair amount of time, and depending on people's schedules or availability or whatever, may or may not be feasible for us because it is a blocker to doing the actual building out of this stuff. Or we have a rough sketch and then like Pattis goes in and starts blocking it out, but then Hamad needs to stay on top of that and go, oh, but I was thinking this, or what about that? What will naturally happen in that type of a back and forth, in my experience, is it could be that either someone like Hamad or me or Nick or anybody else that's like designing something to put in here, we may have one vision in mind, and then in my experience in the past, when you're working with artists, you give them enough information to get them started, but they're artists. And so a lot of times if you give them enough information to get them going and get them into the right space, they're going to interpret that information using their artist brains, and give you something back that's like, oh shit, I didn't picture that originally, but I like it. Or, oh wow, okay, so that's not what I was picturing. This part works. What if we adjust this other thing? Because it's very important to me that this part is very specifically this way. And so that type of back and forth is something that when I was on the EverQuest team pretty early on, we had found that there wasn't a ton of process, and there it was still back when concepts like strike teams and scrums and things of that nature, like cross-disciplinary or multifunctional teams, really weren't much of a thing. It was like all the artists were in one pit. Like in this case, I think downstairs, all the designers were in a pit upstairs, and programmers were in offices somewhere. And to me, I don't necessarily give a shit where you sit. We're in different countries. Hamad is in Bahrain. I'm in Germany. Harrison / Pattis is in the US. Goblin is in Canada, or I think it's all Canada up there. In Canada. And so oh, Jasmine's home. And so basically what's, I heard a dog barking. I guess the dog is barking at her mom. Now he's hiding here. So anyway, like, for us, to me, whether it's asynchronous or via voice, the most important thing is not where you sit, it's that you communicate regularly. And for us, it's been really cool because we can hop into huddles. If you watch our videos, go to our VODs on YouTube, you can watch a video where there's like 6 of us in a huddle when we were first blocking this out. And we're drawing on a screen and sort of saying, what if it was right here? And we can all draw and do shit like that. And we can look at the map and, share screens and, oh, let me share my screen instead for a second. I was thinking this, right? All of that's, to me, that's where it's at. That's very helpful. And so my primary concern is that everybody's interacting very regularly if possible. And then what should happen is we get in enough of a headspace together that then let's say that Harrison wasn't working on this, or sorry, it's easier for me to say Harrison than Pattis for some reason. Anyways, so Harrison, say he's working somewhere else now, and I'm able to come in. I could be like, not only could I place NPCs in here, but there may be some objects that we start to have that, you know, we can start to place around here, and I can do a little bit of set dressing. Since we're working in Unity the way we are, you saw that in the old Night Harbor and Shaded Dunes, where Nick was going in and placing torches and lights where we needed them. I went in and was like, I created some objects and sort of was placing them around as well. No, thank you. I'm so wired on Red Bull. Jasmine asked me if I needed coffee. I was like, I could explode on stream. So anyway, the ability for us to easily come in and manipulate stuff, move stuff, add stuff as both designers and artists makes it a lot better than like way back in the day, where anytime, like if I need a barrel moved, I would have to contact an artist and the artist would have to move a barrel. Then we probably rebake lighting and a whole bunch of other shit. So for the most part right now, there's enough to do that like I'm not coming in here and toying with much in terms of objects and things like that. And then since I'm not in here messing with stuff that that prevents me from stepping on like Harrison's toes or having any sort of file sort of merge issues or whatever. In the ideal sort of perfect world, we could both be in here working at the same time, moving stuff around, and it's all saving and everything's good. But I think the overhead and getting all that set up was like not worth it. We could just stay out of the scene file and do other shit for now. So yeah, that's a lot on kind of our approach here. I don't know if that's beneficial to you guys. I'm assuming a lot of, or at least some of you, are interested in the process of making the game, not just the game itself. Otherwise, some of these streams are probably will bore you as I just kind of ramble about shit. So let me know in the comments below. Also, there's a number of you, so don't feel like you got to be quiet. And then, going back to what I was talking about earlier, I can't remember who it was. One of our regulars asked a really great question the other day, I think maybe Tuesday, about, whether or not we had explicitly mapped every one of these out. And if not, then does that create sort of a generic merchant thing, right? Where it's like, oh, we're just throwing shit in here, we don't care. And my response then hopefully was covered a little bit in my response now, which is, the more Hamad gets into stuff, the more he's got specific ideas of where things are. But for the time being, it's going to be a back and forth, and we're going to pull those together. Like, oh wow, you put this here. I wasn't expecting that, but that's actually a great place for this merchant who is so and so who loves such and such on the other side of town, kind of thing. And there'll be that back and forth with the desired outcome being that things feel handcrafted, they feel very intentional in terms of their design, and they've got character. And for us, that's really important because we don't want you just to visit this city for the first few levels and then go off and never come back. We want these cities to feel like they're a persistent, valuable part of the game experience, for as long as there's a game. Indus KO. Does that mean getting knocked out by Indust? I actually, we had a couple soldiers when I was in the army do that to themselves. Not pleasant. Thoughts on boxing? Do you want your game to have people boxing multiple characters? It's come up before. I like Nick's answer on this, which is let's look at the population of the servers. Like, let's see how many servers worth of people we have. Facilitating a degree of boxing or even a greater degree of boxing for a specific server is likely fine. But for our, say we only have one server, the idea would be that people maybe true box 2 accounts, and try to keep that as limited as possible, and then treat, boxing beyond that as like a TOS concern. If there's only 1,000 of you that subscribe and we have a big ass world, hey, maybe we'll reconsider that, and then every once in a while you just may have to hop in with, see if the group of 6 gnomes will let you hop in and play with them. You can consider them mercenaries, I guess. So those are the thoughts. We'll see how they evolve. But again, I think a lot of that's going to be driven by how the community comes together and kind of where we're at with regards to overall community size and that specific community's kind of thoughts or apprehension. I think the inclination based on everything that we've discussed in here is that the preponderance of folks in our community would like to keep the experience as pure as possible, especially given the direction that we're taking with things being very classic in approach and significant challenge and penalties, etc. So hopefully that's a good enough answer for you. So yeah, that was my little bit of overview on art stuff. Let's see about maybe getting another couple NPCs in here. Don't worry, like I said before, disclaimer wise, the process of creating and adding NPCs to the world is usually a lot quicker than it's going to appear when I'm in here and watching chat and stuff. So let's see, we got NPCs, Night Harbor. So, like I said, I've been just stubbing things in for future use, and they'll serve as placeholder NPCs. For those of you that are lore nerds, and have been trying to like sneak and learn things about the game's lore because we've been very hush-hush about it. Streams like this, where it may be a bit slower and you're staring at me stare at a database, it's a great opportunity for you to get some tidbits, and then you can place them on a wiki or wherever you want and see how much of that stuff changes over time. So anything with a proper name at the moment, like Buckmar, Gorstog, or Brazic, Dorium, these are now names that are 100% lore approved, and that's why we're putting them in at the moment. If you look over here, you may even be able to figure out what they do in game. So Xavius Death Whisper, you can see NH Night Harbor, GM Guildmaster, SHD, you can guess. And then, like I said, I'm just stubbing in placeholder NPCs like a Priest of Eltindra, Priest of Hairdraw, Priest of Matswar. I think that might be the Matswar. Let me double check that. I think Matswar should always have a the. So those of you that haven't been around for more than a month or two, or pretty new, there are a number of zones that in the past when I was running around in game I'd show. So like I'd show Deep Dunes, which is one of our placeholder zones for our Deep Realm zones. Essentially we'll have an underworld that is beneath a lot of zones or connects different zones that'll serve as kind of like an outdoors, but underground, and then will lead to certain dungeons or certain cities and stuff like that as well. Pegbot has asked, has anyone started a wiki yet? I believe Keith G has a wiki that he started, and he also submitted us to whatchamacallit. What was it called? Giant Bomb? Why am I always messes everything up on stream? Yeah, Giant Bomb. Which is, so he signed us up for that as well. So it's there, it got approved. We're officially a game now. According to the, to this. What engine are we using? We are using Unity. So there you go, Pagbot. Zarex7 asks, how many big cities do you plan to have? If any besides this one. I guess how many you want probably depends on the player numbers or player number per server. Vanilla WoW has 6, for example, but a couple tend to be pretty empty of players, so it's arguably too many. So we'll figure that out as we go. The goal for the time being is to have a city per race. We're starting with Night Harbor, which is, in the fiction, it is a human city. Two large factions of humans have collaborated / tolerate each other to build up this city for very specific reasons you'll learn in game. And so they've got a kind of a superficial truce of sorts that allow this to exist. That said, Night Harbor being Night Harbor, it is very cosmopolitan, and you'll, which is convenient for us because as we add races and stuff during proof of concept, they fit in here pretty well. And so we're just going to have everybody starting here for the time being. Over time, the goal is to have starting cities for, well, not starting cities, cities for each race. And, you know, we've got lore for them. There's a lot of details, as you can see here, that we still need to build out for them, but we have pretty strong concepts and histories and, you know, when they were formed and why and by whom and all that stuff. The empty city part of things is why we're so focused on making these not just starting cities, but cities with encounter spaces in them, dungeons that are linked in them beyond just like the initial catacombs and things of that nature. Additional areas that you'll find or will be unlocked over time, and really building, like, going back to the city inn as dependencies, right? There will be reasons why you go back to these cities, and depending on where you are in the world, you're going to want to use whatever city is proximal to you and available to you. And if you faction up with certain, you know, monster races, you may have availability of different utility in those dungeons, which will serve as monster cities as well. Kind of like you could use the banker in Runny Eye if you had Goblin faction or something. I don't know, or Snuck. I don't know. I forget. But kind of like picture Kale Drakar or Thurgoden. So now, how big are the cities going to be? It's going to be dependent on what we learn about cities from building this one out, and what we learn about cities from just starting to get in and play with that concept of having this be a space that is more than just a place where you go shop. So the intent is to have big, interesting cities that you can use throughout the entirety of your character's life cycle. Whether or not we hit that intent is what we're hoping to try to figure out as part of proof of concept. And the reason why we do the development in the way that we're doing, where we'll come on and we'll stream a couple days a week, and we answer questions in Discord and things like that, is rather than have like these big ideas and then the team sits together and like, oh, we get all hyped on our own ideas, get high on our own supply, and then we're like, yeah, that's the best idea ever, and then we do some crazy shit, and then we reveal it to you, and like 10 of you immediately go, you realize if you just done this other thing, that wouldn't suck, right? We get that in real time. So there are a number of times when people come and be like, hey, why is this way? Have you ever thought about it being this other way? And a lot of times the question may be one where we're like, see what you're saying, but we really think this other way is going to work and we want to try it. But we listen to that and we keep it in mind. We discuss it behind the scenes. And then as we try that thing, you're always welcome to come back and be like, well, you see, dummies, I tried to warn you like a month ago. And so, yeah, I think it's just a good opportunity for us to talk through ideas. As we're describing stuff, we're also thinking, because I'll be like, let me describe this thing to you. And the more I describe it, the more I'm like, that's actually a really bad idea. Shit, now that I say it out loud. So that's the approach that we're taking here. And then hopefully at a minimum, you guys are getting some insight into at least one approach to game development and enjoying it. At a minimum, you can kind of see how games work, or in some cases why games don't work or whatever, right? So Jorhodo, thank you for the follow. Ari Ja, same thing. I think the MTC problem has been in every MMO I've played, including UQ and WoW. Players tend to flock to one or two main cities or areas, and others are empty of players, even if they look really cool, and it seems like a lot of work was put into them. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll see. It could be that a city like Night Harbor is always just going to have the most appeal, kind of like a EC tunnel type thing, right? Then our goal is to look at the cities and first of all, see what have we done in terms of the surrounding content and the content that's in the city to potentially help exacerbate what is a very natural problem. People congregate. And then what we can look at as well is what content could we provide in the city to, at a minimum, make it worthwhile for you to come on occasion to that city in order to have access to that content. So does that make sense? Lamarch74, thank you for the prime. Muximos, thank you for the follow. Very kind of you. Will you put level minimums for a character to be able to equip them on items? Rarely, if at all. There may be maybe a soft minimum that adjusts some stats, but honestly, twinking is fun. Twinking allows for a certain amount of replay. Twinking allows for some interesting dynamics at the lower end. I understand the cons of, I want to have a pure game experience, and here I am in a group with people that are overpowered and they're affecting my experience. But I think that's the problem that players can solve for themselves a lot of times. So we want to be as little, we want to have as few sort of artificial restrictions as possible and let players be creative with how they play or replay and what emergent behavior appears. Lupus Partum said game dev, aka failing until the bugs are gone. Well, hopefully not failing until the bugs are gone. Just having bugs until the bugs are gone. But I mean, the reality is, making games is hard, and many game development environment or many game development processes or projects fail. The thing that we want to do is just keep grinding and grinding and grinding until we don't fail. All right, so I've added her. Let's come back over. Let me answer YouTube real quick and let them know that I'm still listening. And we'll get some more music going. Yeah, there's a lot of trial and error. Power should be limited by character skill, not the item equipped, in my opinion. Power should be limited, or power should be derived from skill as opposed to item. Like weapon skill determines max capable damage, sort of like the damage. Oh yeah, so having damage caps. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. All right, so spawn groups here. I forget. Oh, it's interesting if you come in here, I've noticed that you can save a lot of time instead of going through this. Which I want to fix at some point. I'm not necessarily a big fan of how this part of the tooling works. Priest. So this is really. Let me try something. Let me delete this row. Yeah. Let me create a new row. Split row. I can't do it. What is the playlist today? It is the music that has been made for the game so far. If there's a faster way to do this, element OP. It's a tough problem to solve. I think most of it boils down to players like to be efficient. So if a city has a bad location away from everything, it ends up being empty all the time, like Darnassus and Vanilla WoW. If you want a big city, you always have players around. It needs to be a nice central location that makes sense for efficiency, or some very big draws to that location. Yeah. Let's see, duplicate with keys, and then come here, copy. Air draw, good. Copy. That's our nice. So yeah, this part's it can be a little bit tedious. in the past, what I've done is usually I do this kind of work in Excel, believe it or not. Get everything set up pretty quickly and then paste it into DB. One of the things that we're doing as we work through these processes too is just kind of taking notes and seeing where we can make our tooling a bit more efficient. And also just identify any particular issues that may exist with it. But this is the tedious part, not the fun part. Rev Chumley says, I've been a fan of smaller starter towns with 2 main cities, one for evil, one for good, somewhat centrally located in their respective areas. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, like I said, we'll have to see how this evolves. The lore is lore. You know, gameplay's important, obviously. And lore can be used to... Lore is a bit more flexible. I mean, we could find ourselves creating Night Harbor and going the exact route that you just mentioned. We could find ourselves creating Night Harbor, and it's the only city in the game for some reason if we need it. It'd be a lot of reworking of lore, but it's our game. Oops. We can do whatever works best for us. And so really the approach of focusing on creating the approach of focusing on creating the proof of concept, we've got things that we'd like to do. We've got certain assumptions in mind, but we also want to be pretty open with our assumptions and see what we learn as we work through this process, and then use that to guide us in how we want to scale the game. And so a lot of times when people ask about the game, they're like, you know, when's the game going to be ready? I think one of you asked earlier, like when it would be available to... When will it launch, or when's alpha? The goal is to build out this first city and the surrounding zones, right? We've got, how many zones do we have at the moment? Not counting any zone that may result from us dividing up the city, right? Because like if we look over at this area over here, River Bend, the Bends, this will be kind of a urban sprawl that's got, it's primarily encounter spaces. So depending on your faction, you may go in there and be able to camp certain things or complete quests or whatever. There will naturally be a number of sewers and catacombs and dungeons under here. We made some placeholder ones in the old Night Harbor and played around with it. We've got Wormsbane, the Tomb of the Last Wormsbane over here. And so that's its own little dungeon that we've got in, and we playtest in. We'll be having some more playtests soon. We've just, seems like we've done a little bit more. We just had a combat reformulation, and we've done an experience curve adjustment in the last couple of days, and so we want to look at that. But so we've got little dungeon here, starter dungeon. We'll have Shaded Dunes broken out, and we've got, so that'll have its play spaces. We've got Fallen Pass over here, Fallen Watch. When we're in the other version of Night Harbor, you can see it sitting up here on the hill. We've got Sangreet Strand to the north of here. We've got the Glass Flats, Dragon's Run, Vale of Tindra, or sorry, not the Vale of Tindra, I was just looking at the god Tindra's name. The Vale of Xantar. It's Xantar Giants, right? Alright, I'm spacing out. And then we've got the hills here in the middle. And the deep zone under here. So here, I can give that to you. You don't have to try to stealth by. Crazy. So what we're going to do is just continue to sort of flesh those out. First of all, see whether or not those zones are the right scale. Do we have too many zones? What's going on there? We'll learn that as part of proof of concept. We'll be able to basically play through our level range with the zones that we have here. And we even have some placeholder island zones out there. And so it'll allow us to test pretty much everything and just see if the game's fun, if all of our systems work, if the content's doing what we think it should be doing. I mean, if we put it together, we get in and we're just not having fun, then we've got to adjust that before we make big plans about more cities and all that other shit. So, once we hit that spot in the proof of concept, and we, you know, like I said at the beginning of the stream, we're currently working on even things that you might not expect, like bug reporting and petitioning systems and stuff like that. Once we hit that spot with the proof of concept and we're very happy with it, I think we're going to know that even before we're done. And as we're getting closer and closer to that point, we'll have a plan in place for how we want to scale the rest of the game and what the implications are there. And as part of that, we'll probably have been readjusting our expectations on some of the original ideas, and adjusting lore as needed. And yeah, we'll go from there. So Sheer26 said the soundtrack is banging. Love it. Great job. Yeah, if you go into our Discord, you can let Robert know. He watches the Discord. He just did a big write-up in the art discussion channel about his setup in terms of music in his sound studio. He's an actual performing musician. He's been touring with his band. Like, they were just in the UK, and he lives in Finland. But yeah, they've been touring all over the place recently. So we're going for something that's got a little different sound than I think traditional fantasy soundtrack. So he's been doing a great job with it. Autolysis, thank you for the follow. Brendan said, I like having small towns and residential areas dispersed throughout, kind of like how EQ had, along with the big cities. Yeah, and making those have a little bit more value, right? It'd be nice if you derive some value when you go to an inn in like the plains somewhere. There's a lone inn with a tavern. You don't necessarily get attacked by a wolf that's happening to be walking over the ceiling of the inn, or a griffin or something like that. Yeah, so. But what we want to do is make sure that we're sparing in the utility. And so an inn might be able to, you know, an inn in the wilderness might be able to provide you with certain, you know, you can get some food and water and derive the value that comes from being within an inn from that location. It may not be able to provide you with everything that you need to maintain your mount. They're, you know, the innkeep in the middle of nowhere is not going to buy that giant ruby from you that you just got in a dungeon. She may not give a shit that you've got piles of reagents that you've taken off the undead, or that you've got random giant toes or any of that stuff. For that, you need to go back to the nearest town that may have, you know, an apothecary or an appraiser to derive the value of that gem, or nature of that gem, or a jeweler that'll buy it, right? That type of thing. So we want to have specific benefits to bigger cities that retain their value, so that we're not just dispersing that everywhere, so that you can't just find random innkeeper in the middle of nowhere that then can provide you with everything that you'd potentially want to go back to town for. So we're going to play with these concepts. I don't think that, you know, we've got any silver bullets or the word that is kind of final in any area. But I think we're on the trail on some of that stuff. Pattis, these are temples, yes? Yeah, they are temples because there's a dam. All right. Why'd I even ask that question? I knew better than that. So I'm going to plop some people in the appropriate temple now. All right, so where are we at there? we'll go to Night Harbor. Maybe you can make some random camp somewhere with bare minimum resources and have that be some type of outcast deserter start. If faction is going to be a big deal, maybe certain people in real cities hate you that much more, but the scumbags in the slums behind you tolerate you. Yeah, so that's the approach. We're going to allow so that people can quickly play together, no matter what the server population is or whatever. We're going to allow players of any race to start in the same area, but say if you're starting your high elf character and you've got your deep elf or troll friend that wants to play with you, you will start near, or potentially in the case of like Night Harbor in a traveler's camp, or something like that, there will be an opportunity for you to start near each other. But if you elect to do that, you're bypassing any of the starter content that might have been helpful to you if you started in your starting city. So that's an idea that we're experimenting with. So. Quinzel? Am I pronouncing that properly? Quinzel? We are working on monsters and memories here. This is our website. There's an FAQ page there. But essentially the very short summary is we're a 11-person self-funded indie team that is working on a proof of concept for a classic style MMORPG. We're going for an old school look, but in a modern engine with modern lighting, etc. But yeah, definitely check it out there. If you like it, join us in Discord. If you join the Discord, you can also see a lot of screenshots and other stuff that maybe aren't up on the site yet, because I am sometimes a little slack on maintaining the site because we got a lot going on. So let's play some of these guys. I'm gonna have to look at the map though and remember where folks are going. Again, working in data, working in this way for one of the first times on stream. I don't really stream this stuff very much, so if it seems very slow, the process, don't worry. It's much quicker when I'm not on stream. All right, so we've got Temple of Rella and El Tindra here. Let's go ahead and hit those. NPC spawn group. Where'd our priest go? Yeah, and if you're checking this stream out for the first time and you haven't seen anything like you didn't see any of the gameplay earlier or any of that stuff, that's our YouTube channel. I think we've got over 100 videos now. Hey John, what's up? How are you this morning? Gonna kind of generically place them here for now. From position, save. Before, who else we got? We said El Tindra here. We'll get to the other one. Create on click. from position, save. Do you expect spell names and items to have some lore flavor to them? I'm curious when the first spell ability we see will name drop some hero, deity, or whatever, and we're all like, "What's that?" Let me look. I think some may already have, but expect those very soon. Nick has been looking at itemizing Wormsbane a bit more, and Hamad had just given him a bunch of lore to help. So one of the reasons why we've spent so much time, really going deep in our history. This will sound silly to say, and I'm not trying to like, sound like I'm, exaggerating it or making it into maybe a bigger deal. It was just work that we did. What we did was go back to basically the formation of the planet, because the formation of the planet has there's a history to it, right? Like if you go back in any of these games, eventually you learn like, oh, the planet was in this state and then a giant dragon came and clawed at it and blah blah blah, right? Like there are those stories, right? So we've gone through the timeline a number of times over the last year and a half and created a timeline that allows us to have an understanding of the origins of the planet and what that means in terms of like the systems that these planets reside in, and what that means in terms of like a lot of the metaphysical and magical elements of it, all the way up through the appearance of the various races, the appearance of antagonists that will be sort of key primary antagonists in the future of the game, that will be slowly revealed, and the effects of their both presence and then battles on the planet, with I want to be careful how I word it, but essentially events that have happened in the past, which then led to migratory changes on the planet, and the appearance of new races, the alliances that they formed, battles that have happened. And so we did that from the beginning all the way through different eras, in order to try to build as many layers of like, strata as possible, for things that are not only sort of relevant to your question. Like when you find an artifact, we should have an understanding of why that artifact is in the game and why it has the name that it has, and who may have owned it at some point, and so to be able to have a lot of that kind of flavor and have it be internally consistent, we spent a lot of time on that front. There's a shitload to do. There's so much more work to sort of fill in gaps and blanks, etc. But we're off to a good start with it, and we wanted to make it so that we have an understanding of when there are ruins here, and if there's somebody like the Tomb of the Last Wormsbane, we wanted to know why the Wormsbane were in this region, why there are multiple structures related to them, what happened to them, what happened before them that then has even deeper sort of dungeons and aesthetic like influences in this area as well. We want this era of the game, because we've been working through all of the various eras and their triggering events and the events that they then trigger and their significance. We want this period of time in the game's history, when all of us are running around in game, to be very much one of an age of discovery and starting to basically, we had to build up all the layers to make it so that we understood the content when you start digging back down through the layers. And so we want the world to feel like it's dynamic and changing, and an area might be different one year than it was in the previous year. Like I said, I've worked on zone revamps in the past, and I like the idea of changing data sets in different ways, but we also want it to feel like you're always digging deeper into the history and like physically digging in many cases into the world. You've discovered new dungeons that, you know, maybe you've always known that it's eventually going to be a dungeon there. Like if you run up this coast to the north here, there's a structure that we'll intentionally put in there that you won't be able to get into for a while, but we understand what it is and why, you know, it's there and what you'll find in there later, even if you don't get in there for a year or two. So that's the spiel on that. I mean, I would say that is a fairly normal thing, but I'll be honest, I've worked on at least one game that did have that type of depth and lore. Believe it or not, it was the last company I was at, the online horse adventure game for girls. Star Stable actually has insanely deep, rich, crazy, supernatural, metaphysical, multi-dimensional lore. How much of that has been exposed in the game and how much of that will actually be used, I don't know, but it exists. It's even hard bound. The guy that did it he's a cool guy. He had a great vision for it, or the guy that compiled it and built on top of it or whatever. But other games I've worked on, it hasn't existed, right? It's been more ad hoc, and I think that was a product of their circumstance. Like, so Ziggurush just said, sounds a bit like how Kevin McPherson described the Kunark development. Yeah, but then if you watch that interview, which if you guys haven't, if you like MMORPGs or you like EQ or whatever, and you haven't seen my videos on A Loving Robot on YouTube, I've got like 60 plus hours of interviews with different people, and this is a reference to one of them. So he had his D&D campaign environment, you know, like he had Kunark figured out, and it sat in a drawer, like, maybe it'll be added or it won't, but then they needed it. It was like EQ was made, Classic was made, and it was like, maybe this thing will last a year, and then they're like, oh shit, this is gonna last even longer. Who's got something? It's like, boom, Kunark, right? So we're trying to start from a place of assuming the game's going to be around for quite a while and building the foundation for, you know, those expansions to the world or the content that gets unlocked over time. That makes sense. So it's a lot of work. It is a lot of fun. There's a lot more work to do. As Ari said, it's like creating a game and writing a 5-book fantasy series at the same time. Yeah, we're fortunate. So Bunny and I we did a lot of work in the first year, and then Hamad, we actually brought Hamad on because he's a really good illustrator, and then found out that he's been DMing for like 35 years and is like a super pen and paper, you know, tabletop role-playing game nerd. You heard me call you a nerd, Ham. And he's got really, really good world building sort of methodologies that he's used in the past. He's a great details focused world builder. And so now what he's done is he's been taking the lore that Bunny and I were working on for the first year, and then we've gone through and really hammered it and the sort of check for internal inconsistencies and a lot of like just sort of hardening it and going, yeah, but would that really happen? You know, and so we've just been working through that part of the world building and have switched to being very details focused for here. I mean, I would love to be able to just show you our internal wiki and show you some of these details, but you're going to have to play the game to get those. But yeah. Lord Sacrum said it'd be very cool if there was a statue of Moon God, and when the moonlight hits it, it would give a buff to everyone who is near the statue, so people would be more in the temples. We want to so for us, we're going to treat religion similar to faction, so you can swap religion, or, you know, swap gods over time. We'll see if having multiple gods to a certain level will work. so you can be polytheistic. And we're going to play with that and then try to give some purpose to the advancement of that religious faction in a sense. Integrate something that's similar to like a tribute system pretty early on as well. So yeah, we'll definitely want to play with it. Belfaster said, I did a similar version of this during the pandemic when I had a break from working to maintain my sanity. I started out by making a map, and it seemed like once you start throwing down some natural resources, a lot of that creates itself, since towns usually end up built where they are for a reason, and you can see where some obvious conflicts between different cities' races would pop up. Things like using the same resources for a different purpose. Yeah. Yeah. Or things got built for one reason, they got repurposed for other things over time, a la the Wall in Game of Thrones. Well, they also all start with how do we make the most money, and that one almost always ends up going squirrely at some times. Was that a reference to your previous statement or something I said? Sorry. K-Sim said Brad was very active in the Vanguard forums. I believe there's a post of him saying he had like 7 expansions worth of lore lined up. I can believe that. Zigrash said, I was thinking more in terms of how he laid out all the different areas of Kunark's history, even drew up multiple maps and various... Oh, yeah. I'd forgotten about that part of the interview. Good point. Bob Hester said, you should save that stuff, all the internal design content you're making now, eventually publish it later after release, like Superbinder Design Doc EQ, one of your guests said. Go ahead. Oh, so, yeah, what we're doing is... rather than having it be a bunch of docs that are all over the place, etc., we're using Confluence to basically build our own internal super wiki that has all of that, and it's got revision history. So, you know, there are old versions of that information. We've archived certain old takes that we've invalidated over time, things of that nature. So, we definitely have it. If the internet disappears at some point, then we won't have it, but we'll have bigger problems. Hairdraw. I don't know that there's a good temple spot for Hairdraws. Oh. In the garrison. So maybe I'll make it an internal temple for now. I'm just gonna like pretend like there's the temple in here, and then we'll follow up on that one, Harrison. Let me find is there a big room? There is one in there. Oh, I didn't know it. Am I cold? Warm? Does it have a statue? That would make it easier for me to find. I didn't realize how much I like Confluence until I had to use SharePoints. Nice. ClickUp is pretty great. I'm not aware of ClickUp. Let me look at it. I was aware of Confluence from other... Jasmine loves these types of apps. Okay. Keep it on the back burner to see if... Yeah. It's under one of the towers. Oh shit, I've never been there. It's funny, there's already these spaces that I've never seen, apparently. Under one of the external towers? The small one next to the dome. Boom. Amazing. Oh, this is badass. I did not know this was in here. Well, it's even got a skylight. Sorry, kiting on the TLP. No worries, Harrison. I need to get back into the TLP. Maybe I'll play TLP again on Tuesday, or see if I can sneak in a Monday session. I didn't do it last Monday like I said I would, because it was also a holiday here in Germany, and And so Jasmine and I were enjoying the sunlight at the garden. Oh, I see what you're saying about faster. Fair enough. We want maximum profit as well by creating a good experience that you want to spend your monthly subscription money on. And hopefully maybe buying some merch. Whitechapel says, I really like the Crude God statue. I hope it stays in somewhere. What do you mean Crude God? This is it. This is final version. Skylight looks cool around 11:30 to noon as the light hits the statue. We'll make that happen. Oh wait, I can't make that happen right now because I'm not actually in game. I may hop in game in a minute and actually come check this out. We'll actually have this NPC. When I did these, I wish I had set them up with robes and stuff, but sounds like a cool time-based quest deal. Maybe something shows up there only during the time the light is hitting it. Exactly. Doable. May end up being done. All right, from position, save. Cool. Yeah, let me see. Let me backtrack my way out of here and see. Oh no, I know how to find it. I can just hop in the hole. Right? No, I can't actually. It's protected. All right. Let me find my way back out of here then, and then I'll come in here with a character. All right, I should be able to find that. But what if I'm a rogue? Pattis, can I hop in the hole then? I can imagine an NPC pathing there to pray at a certain time, maybe only willing to open up about a particular quest then. Keith, good idea. How you doing? All right, so let's let me tell YouTube that I'm still watching. I am still watching. Cool. So let's go to zone. And let me kill this. Let me hit play. Sure, someone will find a way to levitate into it. Yeah, especially if we put a high enough level thing to kill in there. Let's see. We'll make this full screen for now. Let me mute the YouTube music. We're making tribute. We're making tribute to some. Oh, I see what you're saying. Making tribute to a god in order for some form of buff or weapon enchantment. Yeah, so we'll definitely have more on the topic of tribute and religion in the future. Do you limit yourself to leveling the characters through fighting, or do you sometimes change your level to test content aimed at that level? We've mainly been focusing on low-level stuff. We've in the past leveled, just leveled ourselves to tackle something specific when we were playing around with some little bit higher level stuff. But everything that's on here, I mean, I'm constantly deleting characters, right? Like, it's very random because sometimes I'll get a character gets stuck in a zone. I want to quickly do something else and I don't want to debug why it didn't zone or whatever. I'll just make a new one. But something like this, level 4 Gnome Inquisitor, it got those 4 levels from playing naturally. So yeah, I mean, we spend a bit of time just going in and playing fairly naturally, and especially when we do things like we just made a adjustment to the experience curve, so we'll be playing a bit more to see what that feels like. We just did some combat changes, playing through that as well. We'll grab this guy. I don't think I got him stuck a second ago. I think he's fine. And then more and more as... No, it's dark and I don't have a torch. I'm gonna pretend like I have enough money to buy a torch, so... Because you see how dark it is at the moment in this building. Buy torch. There we go. That's a bit better. So let me run back over to where we were. Can run by here. Let me repop the zone to pull the latest data. And there we go. Now we have a priest of Eltindra here. We should have priest of Rella here. Great. They'll even have robes in the hopefully not too distant future. I guess I could have set that up already. I don't remember if that was working, so I did not get in there. And we're gonna go over here to the garrison. To go check out that that temple room. While we're doing that, the developer dad said, "What is this madness? A ranger not on a corpse run?" I'm in that rare moment between corpses. But don't worry, I'm still naked. Hey Justin Beard, how are you doing? You doing great? Great. How's your Friday? Any big plans other than hanging out with us? You finally got your monitor, so just waiting on your computer, which should show up next week. Right on. I hate waiting on stuff like that. I'm not a very patient waiter. Alright, so I'm gonna run up here. Just got some food stamps, so I'm going to order some groceries for the weekend. And so, if things are pretty nice. So if things are pretty nice, are you gonna do something? Alright, so I'm pretty sure this is the way we came. Let me see if I can find it again. Bam, I found it. Nice. No, just stay in, watch people play video games. Right on. Nothing wrong with that. Alright, so set time. Let's do 11 a.m. Ooh, let's go back. 10 a.m. because it's already happening. Oh, so that's the window. Praying for clothes. Yeah. Donations, please. It's summertime, so the town is going to be very traffic and people heavy, lots of foot traffic, so I just hang out at home. Fair enough, dude. That makes sense. Developer dad says, I like that it's dark for real at night. When I played EQ when it released, my first zoning into Toxulia was a nightmare. The immersion is better than the bright nights we have in modern MMOs. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a taste thing. It's a preference thing. But we are definitely here to appeal to that preference. John said, that's where I developed Tox Vision, the ability to perceive dangers and see the faintest movements. Yeah, man, it's so crazy how much that mattered back then, because you just didn't want to get killed. It was legitimately terrifying. Justin asked, I remember I was going to ask you, are there plans for housing, as in player housing? Remember seeing a video of you guys making a guild hall. There are plans for it. We're definitely interested, and I know that's something that Ollie is very passionate about as well. Oh man, the statue really gets some light. If you're getting shadows from the window, you need a higher sun. The windows are in the walls of the tower. Maybe noon? Yep. We'll see what happens from here. I don't know about you guys, but I get excited for little things like this. I don't mind spending a few minutes watching when little changes like this are happening, because it helps me visualize things that we can do in the future. Isan, thank you for stopping in. Have a great weekend. Fireball shoots out of the statue and roasts the priest. Not for this god. I don't think this god's necessarily looking to do that. So one of the other things that we want to get in, we don't have it supported at the moment, is to be able to do things like reveal or lock or unlock passages based on time. And so that's something that'll be fun, because we could do something like, you know, when the sunlight's basically at a certain point, then, you know, this reveals that there's a passage here, and then you can walk through and go through, or the moonlight of a certain moon hits, you know, the mountainside, and then you can enter the passage. So some things like that. Keep the world feeling like aspects like day-night cycle and season, and you know, the chronology actually matter, aren't just something that's happening on the side or just happening incidentally. Or definitely want to lean a lot more heavily into using the scheduler. So day-night spawns, day-night behavior changes, moon cycle, seasonal. How angry a god is at the moment, maybe. What conflicts are going on. You know what? There are areas within here that were not shown on the like the one I was just in on the video that I made, showing off the work from last month. So I'm just gonna zoom around in here and to the docks. Developer dad said, I don't know if you answered that. I see when you type the command that it says has changed the world time in this zone. Is the time specific to each zone, global in the world, with different time zones? It's global in the world. We don't have different time zones, just based off the scale of the world doesn't necessarily need them at the moment. But it is, it's all synchronized on the server, and then what we're doing is just manipulating the time for this zone, so it's now out of sync with the world. Will there be other monster types in Wormsbane? I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that recently, both in relation to a monster type that we don't have yet. We don't have a spider. And I was thinking about that in relation to bats. I think it's possible that you'll eventually see something different added to Wormsbane. We'll be in there iterating and expanding maybe certain areas and playing around with stuff. So I wouldn't be shocked if that happens, but I'm not going to commit to it. Will any races or classes be kill on site in Night Harbor? Classes, no. Races, maybe. During proof of concept, probably not. And they may not be KOS everywhere in Night Harbor, but rather in certain areas or by certain factions. Damn it, Harrison. This better not be a tunnel to nowhere. Harrison. Oh my god. Am I going to have to put a giant... I'm going to have to put a giant worm in this tunnel. Can I get free booze if I get my faction with the local tavern high enough? I don't know about free booze. Free stuff is always scary. You're going to train them in EverQuest for that? Please do. One of my favorite things about Classic EQ was certain classes having to go into tunnels under their city to find their guild. Yeah, we absolutely appreciate that. For this city, it's not as much a factor. Oh god. Oh no. I've fallen through the world. Yeah, I've fallen to the deep. I'm just gonna try to follow the sun up. Oh my god, how far did I fall? I should have just let myself keep falling, I guess. Alright, I need to check something anyway. Let's see if zoning's working. So is this that different universe you guys are working on? Looks watery. Yes. That was a feature, not a bug. All right, so now we're north of Night Harbor. Oh, there's no, I forgot there's no music turned on here. Let me, I'll pretend like there is. This is character creation tutorial. It feels like being born. Character create, you are literally born. Do you guys find that the Unity engine is flexible for what you want to do? Or do you have to write your own software within Unity? I feel like it's flexible. It accommodates a lot of what we need, but inevitably we make modifications. And by we, I mainly mean Ollie, Gary, and John. Hey, Dark Inside. So keep in mind as I run through this zone, it's strictly just very placeholder assembled blockout work. Haven't done anything here since I blocked it out. So I need to come in and do some update stuff. But I'll be honest with you, I was just getting getting a bit burned out on blocking stuff out at the time because I'd been doing nothing but that for a little bit. So I wanted to get back in and get some data work going, and then I'll bounce between more level design and blocking out and the implementation work that I was doing. And what I'll do is I'll spend more time in the database over the next few days and next week or so, and I get a little bit better flow going. I'll figure out how to structure some stuff. See, this is all just kind of blocked out. Structure some stuff to make it a little bit easier for me to show you what I'm working on, but not have it be like me just staring at the database and poking. So let me cast a spell on myself. Speed of Wild. It's a bit above my level range, but we'll pretend like I've got it. Wow, watching the shadows move in the sun in real time is so cool. Yeah, love it. Those of you that haven't seen our latest update, check it out on the website. I'll do a brief clip showing this. But the update is a video update this time around. Keep in mind that the day-night cycle is sped up a bit. I think now that we have the ability to set the time, we'll go ahead and get it to be something that feels a little bit more normal. So that stuff like these shadows just sort of zipping across feel a bit different. But the idea is just really leaning into... Oh, Keith, now that you've mentioned me saying on video, now I just remembered that. And now I'm thinking about it. I'll switch to So the feel of the areas, not only with the foliage, but just with shadows playing differently. You can't see it here, but when we have them we had the test trees in Night Harbor, and NPCs are moving around in them. It's great seeing like the lighting playing with the NPCs. It gives them a different feel as well. So should be cool. Get the day-night cycle working. We currently have the ability to set mobs, spawn stuff based on day-night cycle. The problem is there's a bug that doesn't depop them when it hits the next cycle. So we've got to fix that. And the second I start thinking about saying or I start saying 10 times as much. Yeah, I just did it again. Yes, Pattis. Absolutely. I say it just to fill so that there's never any silence. If there's ever silence, it's bad for streaming. So you get to hear uhs and ums. Yeah, Dark Inside, the lighting's gonna be fun. When we get the day-night cycle depop working, then now I should do my I was like Tina from Bob's Burgers. The NPCs in the newbie zone in the old Night Harbor, I don't know if they do it here, but you have two different types of skeletons in the old zone. During the day, they're just kind of, they're a bit listless and they wander around slowly and they're non-aggro. At night, they move around quicker and they're social. They're like if you look at their eyes are dark. And here we go. Oh, this is fun. I don't know that I've spent much time in the trees at night. This can give you a feel. So I've got a light source now. So at night plus trees. I mean, hell, if I take off the light source, then you'll really get a feel for it. I think this is honestly the first time I've done this with the trees. There hasn't been a place where there's a canopy. Harrison, I don't know if you've done this at all before, but it's informative. Lockjaw incoming over here in the complete darkness. Ah, terrifying. So yeah, we spent a bit of time talking about how best to create the canopy to work with lighting. And the results the results are promising, and I can definitely picture how this will end up playing out. Justin asks, so if I had a race with night vision, would this trait affect you, what you're seeing right now? Yeah, it'll have an impact on how this looks. Or how it would impact your ability to see in this context. So let me paste this real quick. Going into Slack, screenshots. And yeah. So if the moon's all the way up, there's enough like global illumination that it still affects it. So now keep in mind that there's no fog in here, like immediate fog. So that's another thing that we can play with. That's also going to impact visibility. Have you guys run around with torches often? I know that spellfix seem to do a ton of lighting for the group now. Yeah, I mean, I think we typically, somebody will have a torch. So I just added the torch, and so if we go back to, oh, let me. So what time is it? 10 p.m. Let's go set time 8 p.m. And then so this is similar time with the torch. If we go 6 p.m. then give that a minute. Still torn on the spellfix thing. They look so cool going off in the darkness, but it also seems like it's circumventing the intent of darkness a bit. I can't imagine us changing it though. I mean, the effect of darkness is to add mood and create sort of a baseline atmosphere that gets modified. It's not necessarily meant to be like such a core component of gameplay that for us to have those impact it, that it's like, yeah, it's not really a survival mechanic type deal. I was going to say that, but I didn't want it to sound like abrupt or weird or dismissive or whatever. It's to set the mood so that if anything, you know, when a spell is cast, so here, like in this situation, right, and you get that bit of illumination. Sure, there are going to be those moments where if there's a lot of spells being cast, you know, or you've got a bard going. But the thing is, with the bard song, we're all using like the same kind of placeholder spell effects that I threw in pretty quickly. And then Nick's like, you know, copied and modified colors on stuff. So when you see these spell effects, it's really, this is me never making spell effects in Unity before doing my first pass. So how bright this light is. Look, you can even see there's a little bug here where it's got the volumetric going. I need to go turn that off, right? You shouldn't see that there. But how long the light lasts, how big the radius for the light is, all of that stuff is just very placeholder. With bard songs, if we find that having a bard constantly playing is providing too much illumination, either because we feel like it's you know, nullifying the darkness too much, I attack the darkness, or it's distracting or whatever, since those are unique spells, we can go in and we can modify the lighting on those spells. The way that it's set up, the bard looks like a bomb going up. The bard looks like a mobile disco, which is actually pretty good. And so yeah, there is that factor as well, where we may actually find that it's a bit of a distraction as well, right? So we've got a lot of playing around to do with the effects. So just kind of keep it in mind that it's, hello. Keep it in mind that it's going to change. So we might be able to address some of the concerns that come up with relation to the darkness when we do that. On the flip side, I love being in these environments and having having a spell go off and like seeing it play with the various textures and the color of the lighting that's in there, since we're doing kind of instead of trying to be realistic with the lighting, we're doing some crazy stuff with different colors and just trying to make it feel more like you're in an illustration or a painting than like have it be a simulation. I think having Bard, having an easy light source all the time kind of tracks with what they do. A little bit of everything. Having a lot of utility all the time. Yeah, so, I mean, it can just as easily go that route as well. I wonder this zone line's not working. I should have already zoned by now. In principle, it sounds really cool to walk around one of these dark nights and seeing your group in the distance because they're glowing spells. Oh, and you can see certain NPCs like the beetles. You can see that now. So I think it's fun. So zone line didn't work for whatever reason. We're gonna have to go through all the zones with Ollie and just make sure everything gets hooked up. I've got the feeling I've been running up here to check something that I've got the feeling I know the answer to, but let's try it out. Flats. Can you start casting a spell while moving, or does it fail to start casting? Good question. I mean, it's going to fail. It's going to be interrupted, but I think you can start while moving and it just interrupt. Let's see if I actually zone. I did zone. What time is it here? 4 a.m. Cool. So the sun will be up in a little bit. Spamming it, knowing it will fail on purpose. Wonder what that looks like. So the light doesn't come on until the cast cycle hits. See, it's interrupting it. Hey, Zukin. I forget, Zukin, did you... Was the beetle done on stream? Your beetle animation? Cool. I'm not caught up. Need to train my magic skills legitimately instead of trying to cheese the visibility. I have broken myself by doing what I just did. So we'll go to first person so you can't see that I've broken myself, aside from my floppy sword. And so, yeah, here's another... I mean, so having a longer view distance is interesting in some zones, because we want to create like these scenes where a zone like this really... you've got this nice long draw distance. You can see a point of interest like that Wormsbane Tower in the distance. It'll be really great when we get the crystal objects in here. I want to do that soon. I want to grab those crystal objects from Goblin and plop them in there sometime soon. And then we may get a new texture to kind of start using in here as well to develop that feel. So even though it's a block out, I think it's important to kind of iterate on the overall feel of places and see if it's working. Now the draw distance isn't far enough that you can see these giant red dunes all the time, so that's maybe something that we have to play with. Zigarash said, some of these visuals look legitimately impressive already. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's ooh, God Race. It's something where as soon as we started, I think the first time Ollie put the sun in, there's an old video clip of the first time he had the sun working. I was just like, oh man, this is going to be fun. Because, the idea was just, again, develop a really, really classic feeling style that then benefits a lot from lighting and shadow and stuff. How come lighting day night is so bad in other games? Seems like you guys had it working and looking great overnight. I have the utmost respect for Ollie and you guys, but surely it can't be that they tried but failed and you guys did it quick, or is it Unity makes it easy? I'll be honest with you, no offense to my Unity friends out there. Lighting in Unreal, to the best of my knowledge, is even more I don't want to say better. There's a lot more functionality and capability there, if I'm not mistaken. Lighting in our game is based on just a set of decisions. If you feel like the lighting in our game is better, it's, I think, because you agree with the decisions. Right. So like if we look at this, time set 6 a.m. So part of what we're looking at then is just the skybox that Ollie made, right? And so if you want to see something really good, it's funny. Like we should get one of you guys, Goblin, Pattis, Zukin, somebody to do it at some point. One day Ollie made he made a quick like texture, a moon surface texture for these moons, and it was just, he may have just taken an image off the internet that was just the moon or whatever, and he just put it on there really quickly, and they looked so different. They look like they look like what they are, but they felt so much more real. And they have a different feel, and it was really nice. It made them fit in the scene even more. So yeah, basically I think what's working so far with what we're doing is we've got a specific feel to our skybox. We're using a certain like set of fog to kind of work with it. We've got a simple set of textures. We've got a very simple geo at the moment. And so there's not a ton of visual noise. Acriel just said performance becomes an issue eventually. At some point, they may find that continuously updating lights to produce the smooth day-night cycle causes too much of a performance hit and have to move to discrete steps for updating the sun's rotation position, which is what a lot of other games do. In Elder Scrolls, for example, will update their lights this way. If you stop and watch the shadow for a tree for a bit, you'll see it shift suddenly for a second and stop again because it updates lights more infrequently. So yeah, the question can be, will we be able to maintain it as we continue to develop the art? But one of the reasons why we're going with such a simple art style, and simples in quotes, we should be, and Harrison, let me know if you think this is wrong, but at the end of the day, based on the stylistic choices that we're making, we should not find ourselves in a scenario where we've got anywhere near the polys, texture memory, usage, object count, or anything else that you're seeing in like an Elder Scrolls Online, right? What we're trying to do is produce a certain kind of look and effect, without or by not embracing a certain level of fidelity. And so, I mean, look at how simple this geo is. This is all placeholder. It's all blockout. But in terms of like the style of the geo, it's not going to change. The object density in here will improve. Well, improve. There will be more objects in here, but not necessarily a ton more, right? We'll be using a lot of negative space. We'll be using a conservative number of objects that are also simple in nature. But like for me, having terrain have this style of, like visible polys, choppy chunkiness. To me, looking at that hill over there, or this jag that's sticking up, I find it personally better. Texture resolution may be the same, but a lot of our shaders probably won't have as much going on with them. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like even right now, I think unless it's been changed, this shader is super expensive, just in how it was created. So we've still got like further optimizations, I think. We'll see what happens too when we've got X number of mobile objects in here. That said, we're also doing some proximity culling on mobs. And so we'll have to play around with that a bit. And yeah, so we'll see. It's very, yeah, I was about to say, Acreal, that point is very valid, and we'll see what happens. But then Acreal also just said, yeah, the low poly count texture res dynamic objects may free up enough resources that the smooth cycle won't be as significant a hit in this case. And so we'll see, because the intent is to really have these moments where anytime you stop and you look, it feels more like you're in an old fantasy painting. For those of you that are relatively new to the stream, I used to blab about this a ton like last year. I don't think I've done it as much, maybe to the artist's relief, but every piece that we make, so whether it's a skybox, which I think Ali, he put this together, but I don't think it's like hand painted. But every piece that we make should work together in a way where it feels like we're in an old fantasy painting or illustration, or we don't want to just go stylized for sake of stylized, or maybe that's a stupid way of expressing it. We don't want to go hyper stylized or overly stylized. There are a lot of games that kind of look the same in that regard, and low poly stylized or whatever. Is really meant to be a play off of both the old school look, so like the terrain in 99 and the structures in 99, not necessarily 2002 even, where we started doing more smoother sort of deformation, these meshes and stuff. And the goal is to really have this thing that had like distinct, you can see that we're shooting for a certain style, a distinct classic feel, but then in the overall composition, when you look at the composition of a given scene, and in theory, everywhere you look kind of creates this a different scene for you, right? We'll be careful to look and make sure that we've got these nice views and nice points of interest in the distance, and these oh shit moments, right? Where maybe you come over the dune for the first time and you've never been here before, and the sun's coming up, and you look and you see, that. And the first time you see the tower in the distance when the sun's coming up here is very different than if your first encounter with like this zone and you come up, because it's taking you a while to get here or whatever. And this experience, then this is your experience. Or, later at night when you're playing through the zone again, it creates this other experience. Right. To me, those were always the really cool moments when I first played EQ. Is like, holy shit, just seeing the sun come up in Oasis, or sitting there and watching the sun go down in Oasis, was a moment. Like I would sit there and do that. Right. And so having these moments fill the gaps between combat, where you just walking in, you're like, oh, wow. The only time I passed through the zone before was at night, and now I'm here, and this is like, take a moment to absorb it. Like, wanted to have the old classic art style in terms of the structure, but then have it feel like you're in a, Parkinson painting, or, a old Clyde Caldwell painting, or Elmore, or Easley, or any of that stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my ramble on this, but yeah, I'm excited to get the crystalline objects in here and playing around. It'll be maybe one of the few things you see with a shine and to it. Yeah. So, how much freedom do you have over draw distance, especially for players? Is it unlimited right now? Right now, it's not unlimited because you can see here. But this, I'm assuming, is based on a decision that we've made. Let me try something. In setting up the zone. So if I go to glass flats, fog, right? So this is the same zone with a fog setting. Is there any lore released about the crystalline florist? There is not, but there is lore as to why it's there. Right. So this is, and oh man, Ollie's really hyped. If you haven't seen it, there's a video. I think it's a clip. Let me find it on here. On Eminem's YouTube. Found inside chocolate. You be quiet, me. Short clip. Let me see. Pause. That was the bat. No, I don't think it's in there. Maybe it's only on a Loving Robot so far. There's like a 18-second clip of a sandstorm and a dust storm. So let me find it really fast. And playlist. Eminem development. So this was an experiment we did last year. So when we get weather and stuff in, oh, I guess is that the clip, Keith? So that will also play a factor as well. And this was done in the old Shaded Dunes. So, and I think this draw distance is currently, I'm curious where it's limited here. I think it's handled somewhere else, to be honest. I don't necessarily know. Oh yeah, but I was wondering if there was a setting, not Nick, not like there was a setting that was driving the client as opposed to, and maybe that's in our camera settings. Yeah, draw distance is on the camera. That makes sense. Yeah, because when we're in the scene, we can definitely, it's definitely set to like max for me. So this is what it looks like in the scene, just if I'm in here screwing around, and we can make that adjustment. Oh, there's me. Yeah. So, and then the draw distance, as Akrel mentioned, it makes sense that it would be in the camera itself. So in theory, we can make the adjustment on my camera, and that would resolve that. So that may be something we play with. Main camera, clip plane far, we'll do it 20,000. I wonder if that's being modified again. In the hierarchy, you can T camera show all objects. T colon camera. it's either being modified by one of the other cameras that's associated with this, like first person. Anyway, I think, yeah, there we go. So this is me in game now. But I've already screwed up the fog and stuff. So if I could unscrew that. Here's both. Anyways, that's enough me goofing around in there. I think you get the idea. Cool. All right. So we looked at some stuff. It is now 3.5 hours of streaming. I was only planning on 3, but we got onto some fun subjects. So I tell you what, I'm going to wrap up for today. I appreciate everybody that has been here. It's Friday. Enjoy the weekend. I will see if I'm able to hop on the same time as today, your morning basically, get a little TLP time on Monday and see how things are going, see if everybody's like max level and left the newbie yards at. And then on Tuesday, we'll do more M&M stuff. And same thing with Thursday. So those of you that are new here, haven't checked out our website, please do. Join our Discord. Check our M&M VODs. Also, check out the Loving Robot VODs if you want to see some interviews and you haven't seen them before. Keep an eye out for everybody's streams. So we've got several people on the team streaming. There's links there. Give those guys a follow, even if they're not on at the moment, so that you get notified. They do really good stuff. I spend a lot of time running around showing off their work, to be honest. They stream different times a day in your time zone. I believe everybody's basically in North America that's streaming. So be sure to give them a follow and check it out. You'll get to see character artwork and animation done by Zukin. Pattis will be doing the environment stuff that we were showing off earlier. Goblin is doing concept art and sometimes modeling, sometimes textures. And then Nick, when he starts streaming again, will be doing he'll be showing you design stuff and answering design questions, and especially as it relates to class and combat and systems, encounters and things of that nature. And then also doing QA stuff, so showing you how he can break our game and then let folks know that it needs to be fixed. So those 4 folks have streams, and I will be back on Tuesday and maybe Monday, and keep an eye out. And see you, everybody. Thanks again for the follows and all the cool questions, and for getting the word out. The community is absolutely growing. It's really, really cool to have everybody be a part of the community and let other people know. When you ask, what can we do to make the game happen? Just let folks know. Don't let anybody know about the game if they suck. Like, if you know anybody and they're just like assholes and not going to be there, don't tell them. Tell everybody but them. And because all of you guys are really cool, and we don't need any assholes showing up. You know, especially not on a Tuesday. Like, what's up, Shaka? No trolls, no mean people. Just keep inviting whatever you guys have been doing. Keep doing that. Just Zach472, thank you for the follow. Just keep inviting more people like you. If they're not as cool as you, don't tell them about it. You don't, because those people they'll wind up on the servers. They'll wind up in the Discords. They'll wind up. We don't need that. So keep it on the DL. And let only good quality people like yourselves know about it. Ramez, you're on it? Perfect. Trolls in game, not in chat. Exactly, John. Iriman. Exactly. All right. So MMO Pug, Belfaster, Acriel, Zukin, Keith, Irie, people I missed above that. Have a great weekend. Yeah, send them to other games. Send them to other games. Don't bring them here. And if they ask, you can even lie to them. You can just take them to some other game and be like, "Yeah, this is Monsters and Memories for sure." No, ignore the name. Yeah. So perfect. All right. I will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Hopefully things are good for you. Get some sunlight if you can. Just need a PvP server where we can all gather and grab each other. You laugh, but we have talked about basically creating a Australia server. We'll have a place where we just send all the criminals. If they're paying the ass on our other servers, we just send you there. We'll talk about that more on Tuesday. All right. Have a great weekend. Bye.